Okay.
Thank you so much for making the time immediately. I appreciate it. Like it's unseen flexibility on your side, Elise. Thank you so much.
And areas to focus. Yeah, that stood out to me. And reading comprehension was one that really stood out because that's something I struggled with all of my students. Um, it was difficult. They could read, but it was like remembering what they actually read and what the point was tough. Yeah, it literally sounds like one of my students. So I'm like, this is, um, so I think that you have some really solid ideas that you're doing already to help the student. Um, like as far, yeah, the extra time, a co-teacher, that's huge. Because they need that extra support. Um, the reading material that's right there with the Lexile level. I did that a lot. I used Readworks a lot online. And I would so let me slow down because I'm like, this is very familiar. Um, yes, Readworks is, I don't know, do you have experience with it?
No, I do not. I just wrote it down.
Yes, it's amazing. It's free and you sign up and all you look through the different it's like a lot of reading passages, like reading comprehension, just texts. And you also have the ability to assign questions that they can answer after they read the text. And you can also apply accommodations. For example, like things can be read aloud to them. But you can choose based on their Lexile level
Yeah,
what you assign them.
I'm
Um,
using Newsella. I knew for a while about Newsella that has quite a similar scenario, so to speak. But my co-teacher, in fact, introduced me to one more platform like that. I think it's called Common Lit.
oh, okay.
I do not know, but it's in Common Lit. I think I have to verify the name of the platform and I'll text you or email you that. You can also assign a part of the text that is simplified to different extents, as well as it shows only two paragraphs of the text. And then not until a student answers two reading comprehension questions correctly does it allow him to proceed for the next two paragraphs. So I thought it was grand, especially for ADHD students.
Yes, I have not heard of that one, but I definitely would love to learn more about that. I love that it's not allowing them to jump ahead. That's a huge problem I had with my students is they wanted to just jump ahead to be done. And so I love that they can't do that. That's great. Um, yeah, that kind of reminds me of Ed Puzzle, except that's like you put a video in and you can like intersperse questions throughout that. Um, but yeah, and I think just repetition, with like the skills that he needs to work on, like the reading comprehension, and the writing skills and whatnot. Um, that's going to be huge. Definitely just practicing um the skills. I mean, and there, it might not be that he ever gets up to grade level, but at least he can make some improvements and be able to function a little like the gap might be narrowed just a bit.
Like to perform at least partially the elements of skills that we expect. Because yes, I see that my summative is analytical discussion of 4 different texts. It would take us like 2-3 hours of sitting together and talking about it. Like it's tutoring practically. In order for him to cover those skills, he needs a daily 1-hour tutoring sessions, or at least 3 a week. And I'm not sure if it has been communicated to his parents. So that's
Yeah.
another idea that I might have to discuss with my co-teacher. Strongly suggest a tutor to be to be connected to teachers, so the assignments and expectations are clearly communicated.
Yes, absolutely. Just having that extra support like outside of the classroom. And hopefully the parents are willing to do that. Um because that'll definitely help. I mean, and I'm thinking like, if you mentioned he has that intellectual disability, so he's not likely not going to be on grade level at any point, but he can definitely make strides and get closer, um, and kind of sort of bridge the gap, in a way. And that was something I had to do with my students, especially my students who were a little higher functioning, like they were closer. Um, and all of us had to just kind of let go of they're not going to be at grade level because that's why they have the disability, the label. Even though I don't love labels, but you have to have one to be able to know what to do. Um, and so, but a lot of my students graduated and they were able to like hold down, jobs at like, fast food places or stores, and they could do that. And that was okay. More of the parents had to let go of the expectations within us. We kind of knew, but they had to kind of let go of that. But yeah, I mean, I think that, giving him that extra time is helpful. The structure is a good idea as well. Um, you may have to shorten some assignments.
That's what I was thinking. I must. That comes to a different level of differentiation, and the more I know my group, the more I understand that. It's also what is really challenging is that it's a group of 36 people, which
That's
is
yeah.
absurd to me, to tell you the truth, especially considering that it's a solid, well paid, expensive private school. Not well paid, expensive. But the other group has 5 kids. The reason is because the Arabic Muslim students, they have to take a certain amount of classes linked to their culture, Arabic social studies. There are certain exams that Ministry of Education requires them to pass. And then there are IB students. There is a full IB curriculum offered in the school. So because of that, it's impossible to make this group smaller unless they hire another teacher.
Yeah, so that makes it tough.
Yeah, especially at this point of the year, which still, in my opinion, the school should be doing that. Like, but I don't think the schedule is put together up until.
One thing I did, like when I gave out reading comprehension activities where like they had multiple choice, um, I would like, and actually you have the use of highlighters. I actually took and I would highlight like if one question asked like what the main idea of the passage was. So I would highlight the question in like say a green highlighter, and then I would go to the passage and highlight the main idea in green. And so the students would read the question in green and they would search for the green part in the passage, and they would see, oh, and they would read it and say, this is the main idea. So it taught them to search a passage, for a main idea. And then of course I could pull that back as they understood how to do that. Um, so it kind of seems like in a way it's probably some people might think it's like feeding the answers, and it's not, only because they're learning um how to search those passages for those things, and go back to what they read and figure out, exactly what the main idea is, what supporting details and that sort of thing. So I did that a lot too. Um,
Yeah, or
and
you highlight the main idea and then you give them a passage and ask what idea does support the main idea. So you gave them the main idea, they have that anchor to rely on, but then they start thinking further individually. Yeah, that's good, sure. The problem is that other 30 students are at their grade level, and I have no opportunity to really like deconstruct it that way into segments and have. It's tough, it's challenging always to see the kids and to do whatever you can, but they do need twice as much time on hands on, and that's a tutor. We can try and give and portion and differentiate and adapt, but they still would greatly benefit of a person who would sit down with them.
I think that's going to be the yeah, I mean, that's going to be what he needs. It really ultimately is the tutor. And I definitely would, I mean, I don't know how much you can push for that, but that's something that I think would really, that's going to make the difference, is to have that tutor. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the parent, because they can do all this stuff. And then you can support it in the classroom, but ultimately they can do all the stuff and kind of really work on building those skills and bridging that gap. Um, so, but I think you've got some good ideas here. Like, as you know, what you can do in the classroom. As far as, the extended time, feedback, prompting. And I like the highlighters, the graphic, organized, I'll just everything like that. I mean, I think that's gonna be huge, and helpful. So
Yeah, and thank you for sharing the new platform that I didn't know of, ReadWorks. I will definitely look up the one. I should be using them more because that's pretty much the work done for you. You assign their Lexile level and you work with a different Lexile level with the class. My only problem with Newsella was that it's very article-like. It's very I don't know. Articles there seem to be just, it's hard to attach those articles to some coherent, unit-wide, united whole.
oh yeah.
So it should be like random practice here and there. I should just spend more time looking into it. How do I connect those texts to content?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, and I haven't really done a comparison, but I think that ReadWorks has a little bit more in the way of like just a variety of things. And they even have like different subjects too. Um,
Nice.
so like my husband, he taught science and he was able to use some of the content for science. Um, so yeah, there's a lot, and there's a lot that students can be interested in, and your other students can be doing it too, because it it spans the different levels. So yeah, it's worth looking at. But I mean,
Totally. I will,
yeah,
thank you. Yes. Before I plan my next unit, I will look into my skills and standards I should teach, and I will try to design the next unit implementing as much of those differentiated texts as possible.
yeah, yeah, and that'll help. And then I mean, like I said, you've got a lot of good things going on here, and then anything you're able to do, like absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think the tutor's going to be your best bet.
Yes, with any ELL or special needs, not well, special needs almost always. That would be the best solution.
Yeah, yeah. I and I wish, I mean, we had a special classroom for them. That was what my classroom was. We just that was it. I was a special education teacher. So that was nice because we were able to, you know, really work with them one on one. But I'm like, man, some of them could have benefited from a tutor even, because I had students who were, I taught high school. I had students who were maybe seventh grade reading level, and then I had students who didn't know their alphabet and they were in the same room. And so that was tough. And I wish I had somebody who could just sit and work with my kids who needed the
Yeah.
alphabet practice.
And how many students did you have in the classroom simultaneously?
12, because that's all I was allowed. So because we have like ratios for special education. So I could have 12 by myself, and sometimes I did, because sometimes we had to share aides or they had to go somewhere. Um, but it was difficult because I had 12, but then I had, like I said, one who didn't know his alphabet, and then I had one on seventh grade level, and then some in between, and some who
Yeah.
were stronger at reading, and some who needed comprehension help, and some who just couldn't remember how to do the activity. Um, so it was a
Incredible.
lot. I loved it though. I mean, and I love my kids, and I always advocated for them and fought for them, because a lot of times teachers would like be like, they can't do this, they can't do that. I'm like, hold on, no, they can.
Yeah,
They have ability. You just have to work with them. So
exactly, exactly. That the kids are blessed to have a person to actually understand their background and meet their needs as they are without judging their levels and just accommodating them. That's something I find very important. So